Well, hockey has been undergoing a reckoning in this country over the past few years, highlighted by the trial and acquittal of 5 former World Junior hockey players accused of sexual assault. That case is finished, but the examination of the culture inside the game continues. Joining us this morning is Rick Westhead, TSN senior correspondent and the author of the new book, We Breed Lions. Rick, good morning to you. In this book, you hear from people inside the game, those who say they love hockey. What did they say about their experience in the game?
Well, it's interesting to a person, and I wanted to make sure that the reporting on this book was current. You know, one of the questions I asked myself repeatedly while covering that case in London, Ontario, was how we got here. Because, of course, that case is not the only case. Even as that case was unfolding, we also saw 2 junior players in Quebec who were who pleaded guilty, to sexually assaulting a young woman in a hotel room, and they're now serving 3 years in prison. So I wanted to understand how we got here, and I interviewed 58 men in their 20s who have played either major junior hockey or Tier 2 Junior A within the last 10 years. And the answers I got were really interesting. The through line, what they all said is they love hockey. And again, hockey's an amazing sport. Some of my best friends are in the game. I still play 3-4 times a week. I coached my son through his minor hockey. And there's amazing people who are working and volunteering in this place. However, I think 2 things can be true. That can be true, and it can also be true that there are some real systemic issues with the commercialization of minor hockey, and questions about, junior hockey and what happens when 14, 15, 16-year-old boys move away from their families to live in billet homes hundreds of miles away, and where they're trying to fit into a locker room that's often dominated by alpha male leaders, veteran players who are 20, 21. That's a huge age gap, and those young boys, those rookie players, often will do whatever it takes to be accepted and to fit in. Again, that's at least according to the players that I spoke with.
Now, there's a part in the book where you speak to a father and son, and the son opens up about hazing and abuse, and the dad didn't have any idea. What kind of advice would you have for parents in terms of finding out what's really going on within those locker rooms that you speak of?
Good question. I would hope that parents want to know what's going on, and that scene was really striking. I was sitting at a restaurant in Toronto for breakfast with a player named Marcus Patterson, who played Junior A, and his dad. And Marcus shared that he'd had to go through something called the hot box. And for people who don't follow junior hockey or know what this is where the rookie players early on in a road trip in the season are kind of tapped on the shoulder, and they have to go to the back of the team bus, and they're told to strip, and they jam themselves inside the bathroom at the back of the bus. So in Marcus's case, there was like 5 or 6 first-year players in there. And then somebody throws in coins through a vent, and they're told they can only get out if they've collected an exact amount of change. So, in some cases, I've talked to players who've been in that situation with the lights off in that bathroom with, 5 or 6 naked teammates for upwards of half an hour. I don't understand how that actually can lead to team building, if I'm honest. And I should also point out that story from Marcus was way back in the old days, back in 2019. So I think it's evidence, just like so much of what's in this book, that these issues are not only historic, that we're not only talking about things that happened in the 1990s, but they're happening in recent years as well.
Who's helping at this point? A lot of this conversation has come to the forefront lately. Are there people in the game who are trying to fix things?
Yes, there are. Thank you for asking that, because there is a chapter in this book about a path forward, and I spotlight, how some teams and leagues are actually trying to do things differently. They're outliers. Many junior teams, if they do consent training at all, what that means is they'll bring in someone from an agency that, works on gender-based violence to confront it. And they'll have somebody come in like once a year in September for an hour during training camp. And they'll play, they'll talk for a while. Maybe they'll play a video like the T consent video that everybody or many people are familiar with now. And that's it. There are some teams that are doing things differently. And one example, the Peterborough Petes in the Ontario Hockey League, they opened their locker room to an Australian man named Luke Ben Veltson, who has training in issues of consent and how to educate on it and healthy masculinity. And they gave Luke unfettered access. And think about the difference that makes. doing that kind of work is a lot like what we do as reporters. It takes time to build up trust with people, to convince them to be vulnerable and really open up to you. And so by letting Luke be there every day, he showed these players with the Pete's that he was willing to put in the time to really get to know them, and that he was interested and invested in this. And I think that, that could be a really, if a team is wondering, well, what should we do? That could be a starting block.
Well, your book, We Breed Lions, is deep. There is a lot going on in there, and I encourage people to pick it up. Rick, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you, and I really do appreciate the time to talk about it.
We Breed Lions is available now.